Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to declare my interest as Managing Director and partner of a consulting firm that does work in the area of skills development. As we work together to emerge from this crisis of a generation, it is with a glad heart that I support the President's call to strengthen our social safety nets and social mobility. Today, I would like to talk about a necessary prerequisite. Singapore must continue to remain competitive. This year, Singapore was again ranked the world's most competitive economy in the annual IMD World Competitiveness Ranking. But we cannot take this for granted. As an executive from a big automotive MNC told me, many years ago, Singapore was the only place in the region our expats wanted to live. But now, other cities are pretty nice. And when we think about where we want to set up, Singapore doesn't have what we call the halo effect, because the domestic market is so small. So in the race to attract and retain our investments, our neighbors are not standing still. Technological, social, economic, and political forces are reshaping the world, along with Singapore's place in it. I think Prime Minister Trudeau put it so well at Davos in 2018. The pace of change has never been this fast, yet it will never be this slow again. In such a world, the winners will be those who learn faster than others and adapt to change. I believe Singapore can build a lasting competitive advantage by being the nation that learns the fastest. The nation that learns the fastest. Today, I will focus on two things we must prioritize to do that. One, investing in our people, and two, giving them opportunity. Investing in our people and giving them opportunities. Since 2015, Singapore has embarked on a bold experiment to get our people to embrace lifelong learning. This is, of course, Skills Future. It's still early days, but I think it is an experiment so bold in its intent and approach that I think we owe it to ourselves to continue. Nonetheless, with the fallout from COVID-19, more and more Singaporeans will hope, will demand the courses they attend to lead to a job. In the late 19th century, the German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus was among the first to perform experiments to understand how memory works. The results of his experiments was the forgetting curve, which shows that learners will forget 75% of what they learn within 6 days, 90% within the first month, if they don't apply what they have learned. So while we talk about steep learning curves, let's not forget about steep forgetting curves. Mr. Speaker, I believe it's time to go full throttle to help our people quickly acquire job-oriented skills, and crucially, to provide them with immediate opportunities to use those skills in meaningful work. For this to happen, employers must be a bigger part of the solution. First, they must take greater accountability for their employees' learning. Second, they must be willing to give more Singaporeans a chance and look beyond paper and past experience, instead making their hiring and career progression and retention decisions based on skills. One of my residents in Woodlands, in Sembawang GRC, I'll call him Mr. Lee. He's in his 50s. He wrote to me a few weeks back. He had just been retrenched and wanted my help to support his application for a role in a government agency. Reading his resume, I was impressed. He had good technical competences, and he had been promoted several times in his company. So I thought, why settle for the role that he was thinking of? So I asked a friend of mine, with a big data startup, to run it through his fancy matching algorithm that his company has built that matches people with available job openings based on the skills on their resume. I got a list of job openings that had a high match for Mr. Lee. When I sent the list to Mr. Lee, he wrote back to say he appreciated the list, but he didn't meet the educational qualifications required. Sure enough, when I checked the job profiles, they all specified degree holder. Mr. Lee has a diploma. Mr. Speaker, I did not sleep well that night. It bothered me because I know how to read resumes, and I know Mr. Lee's experiences suggested he could definitely do all those roles. The next morning, I emailed him to suggest he try and apply anyway. He's yet to get a single interview. Can his story be different? Last month, Google launched its new Google Career Certificates program, a collection of 6-month-long courses designed to help participants get qualifications in high-paying, high-growth job fields without attending university. Google, I quote, "We will consider our new career certificates as the equivalent of a 4-year degree for related roles." After completion, Google promises support in the job search as well, with over 50 companies signed up to participate on exclusive job boards and interview days. Google has also announced 100,000 apprenticeships. The cost of this program, for example, the IT support certificate costs $49 a month, or US $300 for 6 months. That's less than what we get in skills, you and I get in Skills Future credit. Whether you are a millennial eager to climb the corporate ladder as quickly as possible, or a mid-career professional looking to make a career change, that probably made you sit up. And if you run a university, you'll probably sit up faster than you can say technology disruption. Of course, we don't know how many of those who complete the Google Certificate program will actually get jobs as a result, but it does paint what the future could be like. Employers developing their own or collaborating with higher learning institutes and other partners to offer pre-skilling, upskilling, and reskilling opportunities, from apprenticeships and traineeships to short courses to reskilling boot camps along a lifelong learning path where they are able to quickly apply what they learn. Now, here's the thing. For most employers, it actually makes business sense to do this. You see, all businesses need to transform. Yet the skills required for transformation, hard digital skills, transformation skills, and soft skills are all in short supply. Now, a company can buy, borrow, or outsource their skills to people like myself. But I believe building them by investing in our people has the biggest payoff in the long term. And it's even more relevant today given the global pandemic that restricts movement and the increased scrutiny on the contribution of business to society. Ultimately, being known as an employer that invests in and develops its people will help companies attract and retain the best talent. To increase opportunities for job seekers in particular, we also ask companies to consider if they can hire a little ahead of demand, or to loosen their screening criteria and take a chance on Singaporeans who may not look like the perfect fit in terms of paper qualifications and past industry experience, but have sufficient relevant skills to get in the door and the attitude to learn the rest on the job if they're just given the opportunity. Some companies will require support to do all this. For example, our SMEs, government can play a bigger role, creating platforms to train their employees at scale and at speed, while simultaneously helping the SMEs to transform and redesign their jobs when necessary. And of course, the government is already helping. Adapt and Grow, SG United Skills Program, SG United Traineeships are all great schemes, offering much-needed hope to our job seekers. Since the SG United Traineeships Program started on June 1st, more than 16,500 vacancies have been approved and 1,000 trainees placed on the program. According to media report, they are converting the skeptics. We need to have more of them and make them sharper. Today, big data and AI gives us insight into the supply and demand for a multitude of skills adjacencies, and using machine learning allows us to be much more surgical in our learning interventions and give us a better shot at landing a job for our people that can use the skills that they have. But even while we turn to AI, I hope we will always stay open to new possibilities to make our schemes more human. Take the SG United Skills Program. With a training stipend of $1,200 a month, for the mid-career worker with children and aging parents, it's quite a difficult sell. We're paying you to learn, they're told. Yes, but let's not forget, they also need to survive. So we must find ways to make it easier for our people to take the pathway of learning. But good policy in itself is not enough. People must also trust the implementation. Trust that they will be given a fair chance. A fair chance. But we all know the best schemes don't always work out for everyone. We've all met them among our residents, our friends. Singaporeans who don't feel they're being given a fair chance. The 50-something PMAT who was retrenched when his company was acquired and has gone for countless interviews only to be told he is overqualified for the roles. The 40-something banker who was first put on no-pay leave and then let go because he was told that there was no business need, only to see a foreigner take his place 2 months later, while he himself is unable to get back into an industry that is supposed to be still growing. The 30-something Malay accounts clerk who goes through countless job advertisements and interviews, only to find that many of the jobs are for Mandarin speakers only, as if computers and ledgers can only speak Chinese. The 20-something-year-old graduate, a few years out of school, who interviews for jobs that ask for experience, only to be offered a salary that he believes can only be called a lowball offer, lower than what a fresh grad should be making. If people get a bad taste that no matter how hard they work, the system is stacked against them, it leads to cynicism. And because we Singaporeans actually have a strong sense of fairness and rooting for the underdog, if people see too many people around them like that, it can lead to polarization, which only hurts our competitiveness. We've seen that efforts are being made with the recent interventions already highlighted by many of our colleagues today. But perhaps we do more to ensure fair employment is ingrained in the legal and regulatory framework and strongly enforced, with TAFAP and other relevant agencies stepping in to intervene on behalf of Singaporeans of all walks of life. We must continue to address prejudices and correct negative stereotypes, and to encourage inclusive workplaces, and be willing to have sensible dialogue on these issues. If we all, government, employers, and citizens, step up to the plate, our Singaporean workforce will surely be well positioned to be the fastest in getting the right skills and the most adaptable, able to hold our own against anyone in a competitive and rapidly changing market. Mr. Speaker, in Malay, please.
I spoke about how the government and especially companies can help workers improve themselves with certain skills and provide them with various opportunities, thereby removing the importance of education certificates and working experience of the past. Various efforts are being made now. However, we acknowledge that not all schemes offered are suitable for each individual. We all know about friends and family members who feel that they are not given the opportunity that they should be receiving. The government is determined in its fight against any discrimination and injustice that may exist in some sectors of employment through proactive action, education, and dialogue. At the same time, we need to pay attention to and focus on capitalizing on the schemes that have been provided to continue to develop ourselves. If all of us, including the government, employers, and the people, take positive steps for everyone's benefit, I believe that we can be the most agile acquirers of knowledge as a nation, thus giving us a unique advantage and making us the most competitive country economically.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to conclude by addressing two distinguished groups I now have the incredible privilege to belong to: our members of parliament and our business leaders. As members of parliament, we are the ones that people turn to for help when they are at their lowest. You are my last resort. I've heard this too many times. How we lead during the coming years could make or break their spirit. This is what I think about a lot as I try to comfort, encourage, guide, and help my residents through these challenging times. I'm sure we all do. We are used to the government telling us we have to be better, faster, work harder. If you excuse my use of a Hokkien word, more zai. How do we also provide support and inspiration? How do we open doors for them to ease their way through this world? Call it social capital, call it the human touch. The battle for hearts and minds can only be won on the ground, and we must lead the way. As business leaders, this is our chance to lead a renewal of the economy through working together with the government, unions, and our employees on thorny issues of labor market practices, costs, regulation, and discrimination. It's time for us to ask ourselves how the organizations we lead can be better corporate statesmen and women and proactively contribute to addressing critical societal issues in order to strengthen our social contract with society, in order to earn the social license to operate. Today, in this House, we must answer the President's call for the government, Singaporeans, and I will add, companies, to work together, to learn faster, and to create a better and stronger Singapore on the other side of this crisis. I support the motion. Thank you.